Welcome to the Zen Watercooler podcast. I am Zen Watercooler. I hope you're having a great day today. Normally, my videos they have a video so you can see something. This is audio only. And what I like about this is that I can take my time and really flesh out big ideas, sometimes very detailed ideas about print on demand. And in this episode, I'm going to be discussing tools of the trade. What do I mean by that? I mean programs that you can buy or free programs that you can download and use. Sometimes they're websites. They're things that you can use to augment your print on demand journey. Why is this important? Really, with print on demand, it comes down to three things: time, energy, and money. Those are the three things that you need to succeed. Let me repeat that: time, energy, and money. Now, you can succeed using a combination of any of those three things, but you need time. If you're working 2 jobs, if you've got 14 children, if you have a life, a very active social life, you may not be able to dedicate the time necessary to make print on demand work. However, if you utilize the right tools, you can overcome this hurdle and at least have some success. The other hurdle is energy. You may wind up in a situation where, because you're working all day, you may have the time, but you just may not have the mental or physical bandwidth to do it. I know I'm guilty of this. I work a full-time job. I'd like to think I have somewhat of a social life. I play hockey once or twice a week. I like to go for walks and hikes. It can be tough when I'm sitting there on a Friday night going, I maybe only have an hour and I really just don't want to work on print on demand. I just want to watch my favorite TV show or maybe read a book, sit in the bathtub, whatever you may be doing. So it may not be that you don't have the time to do it. It may just be that you just don't have the energy to do it. And that can be tough, right? Even though I really enjoy print on demand. The third thing is you may not have the money to do it. Now, what do I mean by that? You need money to make money normally in life. And print on demand is no different. I sometimes will get questions from people on the channel and they'll say things like, hey, I have no money. I can't afford a computer and I can't afford any graphic software whatsoever. I've got a phone and it's an old phone and it's very limited in what it can do. How do I make $10,000 in print on demand? And it's like, well, you probably don't, to be honest with you. You'd probably just be better off getting a part-time job somewhere and doing something that's relatively straightforward. You trade off some time for some money in that respect. And I'm not saying that as a put down on anybody. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's very similar to any other business or any other hobby. If you said to me tomorrow, hey, I really would like to start a rock band, but I can't afford any musical instruments and I can't afford to spend any time practicing how to play an instrument, well, what makes you think that you'd be successful in the rock band? It's that sort of mentality that I would encourage you to have in the print on demand space, to say, look, I need to invest something. I need to invest time, I need to invest energy, or I need to invest money, or a combination of all three things. So you really leverage one into the other. Using time and energy, for example, can be a really potent combination. Using money and time can be a really potent combination. So in this episode, we're going to talk about tools of the trade. Now, I do want to give you a quick story about one of the pieces of feedback that I got. I recently did a podcast called Haters, and it was sort of dramatic because I don't think anybody's really got a hateful heart as they're delivering me some negative feedback on the YouTube channel. But hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got, I am a proud ambassador for a few different print on demand tools. And I did a video for one of them and I use the tool. So I'm living proof. I go on there almost every day and use print on demand tools. And the feedback was that I was a paid shill for big industry trying to push these products on people. So I wanted to frame the conversation as we get into it that most of these tools are either free or there's a free option. But the other thing I wanted to point out is you don't have to buy it. Nobody's forcing you to buy it. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm not saying your life is completely meaningless if you don't buy it. What I'm offering is an alternative from a free option sometimes, if there's a paid option, or there's just a higher end option that people can use. So if you can't afford a subscription, or if you can't afford the high-end software, that's totally okay. There are free options out there. Just be aware that you may wind up with a lower quality piece of software, and that's okay. You just have limited options, but that's where you may need to start out, and that's totally fine. In fact, you may never graduate past that, and that's totally fine too. So I want to be very clear. I'm not strong-arming anybody into purchasing anything here. I will put links in the video description below. And just a heads up, they are affiliate links. That means if you do wind up purchasing something, I would receive a small commission. I want to say, and I'd like to emphasize, small commission. I'm not necessarily quitting my job anytime soon and buying that super yacht to sail around the world based on my $2 commission that I would get if you were to sign up for a subscription service for one of the print-on-demand services. Now, that having been said, I do love using these tools, and I use them quite a bit. In fact, I was just working on print on demand right before recording this podcast, so I've got my brain firing on all cylinders here in the print on demand world. I regularly upload to Amazon KDP and Merch by Amazon, Redbubble, and Display. Those are probably my favorite that I upload to. However, I do have shops on many other platforms, like I've got a store that I help run with a friend of mine on Etsy. I've got TeePublic, Society6, you name it. I've probably got my finger in some pie somewhere. So I do really like print on demand, and I hope it comes through in this video, this audio only podcast. There is no video in this. It's just me talking into the abyss, and I really hope that you find this helpful today. You know, it's a lot like walking versus driving. So imagine if you had to get across town and you had no money. Well, you could walk across town. That's a free option. It would take you a lot of time, though, and it would take a lot of energy. So now imagine if you're driving across town. Well, that would take you a little bit more money, and it would take you less time. So you're kind of trading off energy, time, and money. And the more of one you spend, typically the less of others you spend. So in this video, I'm going to go through 10 tools that I actually use in the print-on-demand world. And I'll talk a little bit about each one, and hopefully that'll give you some sort of idea about whether or not this is something that you'd like to pursue for yourself. Tool number one is Inkscape. I love using Inkscape. I've got an entire channel, this one, of course, being Zen Watercooler, but I have an entirely different channel called Crafty Stacks. And Crafty Stacks, that's S-T-A-X. If you look it up on YouTube, I've got a whole bunch of Inkscape videos there. Inkscape is a free vector software tool. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that you can take a picture, a photograph or a graphic, and you can open it up inside of Inkscape, and then you can trace that picture into a vector. Now, why would you want to do that? Typically, the reason you would want to have a vector is it makes it a very clean image with very clean, distinct lines, and you can change the color on it, and you can make a really crisp, clean design for a t-shirt or for a fine art print. And I really like using Inkscape. It's relatively easy to use, although there's a ton of features, and that's why I've made a bunch of videos to show you how you can do different things inside of Inkscape. Inkscape is completely free to download. I suggest you go to the video description and click on the link. It's inkscape.org in case you're not looking at the comments. Again, it's completely free to download, and I really like the tools inside of Inkscape. And even if you just use the trace bitmap, it's totally worth it because, again, it's a free download. Print on demand tool number two is sort of a hybrid here. I use Photoshop quite a bit. However, Photoshop is expensive. Newer versions of Photoshop have a monthly subscription that you would purchase. So if you'd really like to get Photoshop and you don't want to pay the monthly subscription, you can go onto a site like eBay, for example, and you could buy an older version of Photoshop that's a single point of sale, and therefore you're just paying one time for the Photoshop software. You'd have to take a look at the details on it because at some point Photoshop moved over to a cloud system, to a subscription system. So the newer versions, it's very hard to find a one-time purchase option. Now, I will say there's Photoshop alternatives that are pretty good. There's a free Photoshop alternative called Photopea. That's Photopea. I call it Photopea. But that teach their own. And Photopea or Photopea is completely free. You just go to the website photopea.com, and it's just sitting there on the website. It's like Photoshop. It feels like Photoshop, but you can't really download the program to use. You just go to the website and you use it. However, you can open up Photoshop documents, you can export to different file types, and you can do basically the same things that Photoshop does inside of Photopea. A third option that I really like is Affinity Photo. So if you've never heard of Affinity Photo, you can go to the website. Affinity Photo, the big advantage to this is that you can purchase it just a one-time purchase. It's like $50, $60, $70. Now, again, I know this is a global podcast, so I'm talking US dollars here. Sometimes it's on sale as well. There's a sister program called Affinity Designer. I like it. I don't like it as much as Affinity Photo. It's still pretty cool though. The big upside to Affinity Designer is that you can use and manipulate vectors inside of Affinity Designer. The downside to Affinity Designer is that you can't trace the bitmap the same way you can in Inkscape. What I love about Inkscape is you can pick a photo and then you can trace it and you can make a really crisp design. You can't really do that in Affinity Designer, so I don't use Affinity Designer perhaps as much as I would like. Affinity Photo though, I do recommend. It's a nice option, and I just purchased it one time a few years ago, and then what happens is you can buy add-ons if you want, but if you don't want to, you just get the occasional update and your software will just update on your computer, and then you just have the newest version, and it's completely free from that point forward. So it's really good. I like using Affinity Photo, and of course Photoshop to me is the ultimate in graphic design software. Print on demand tool number 3 is a website, and I really have fallen in love with this website over the last few months. It's called Leonardo AI, and Leonardo AI stands for Artificial Intelligence, and I know AI is a hot topic these days. I just recommend that you check it out. It's a free website, completely free, and what happens with Leonardo AI, and there's many AI websites out there, by the way, so I'm just picking Leonardo AI because I personally like it the best. What I like about it is it's a great interface, and it gives you free credits every day. It gives you 150 credits at the time of this recording, and it takes about 6 to 10 credits to create an image. And then what you can do with that image is stick it on a t-shirt, or you can manipulate it, you can edit it in other software or in Leonardo software. There's some really cool tools in there. And the way AI software works for graphic design is there's a text prompt, and then you just type into the text prompt what you would like to see. So for example, you could say an alligator wearing sunglasses walking through a busy city at night, something like that. And then you'd have a filter that you would pick, and then you'd create the image. And sometimes the images look spectacularly amazing, and other times the images are complete garbage. AI is still in its infancy, and the machine that's running is not perfect by any stretch. So you can sometimes challenge yourself and challenge the computer to make some really crappy images, but that just makes it fun. You get 150 free credits every day. That's more than enough for me. I might make 10 images a day, and then I'll use those in the print-on-demand world in some way. I really like the different styles of designs with Leonardo AI. Now, there's other ones as well. There's Night Cafe that you could use. There's Dream by Wombo. Those are probably the other two that I would like as well. So you could check those out at some point too. Print-on-demand tool number 4 that I absolutely love and I'm a proud ambassador to is Creative Fabrica. I'll talk a little bit about Creative Fabrica. Creative Fabrica to me is probably the single biggest tool that I've used over the years. And the reason for that is just the pure scope of the designs. There's graphics designs, there's vector designs, there's embroidery designs. There's also digital downloads that are like teaching tools, mock-ups, you name it, Creative Fabrica's got it. Now, the quality of the designs radically can shift from really amazing to very simple, but you basically can purchase the design and then you download it and you can use it forever, or you can get an all-access subscription, and that all-access subscription gets you access to use everything on the website. Now, I will throw in one big caveat with Creative Fabrica, and that is that generally speaking, I would not recommend that you use the designs on Creative Fabrica just as is. What I'd recommend you do is you pastiche together different designs into a main design. Or maybe you take some public domain assets and a Creative Fabrica asset and you mix those two together. Or maybe you use Photoshop or Inkscape to change it in some way. Now, why do I recommend this? Even if the license on Creative Fabrica is for commercial use, really think this one through for a second. What if you upload the design, a raccoon in the dumpster, and it says, life's short, eat trash. So you have that design on Creative Fabrica, and then you upload it to a site like Redbubble. Well, somebody could upload the exact same design. They would also purchase it. They would also upload it. And now Redbubble's sitting there looking at this going, okay, there's two identical designs sitting on their website. They may not like that. And if somebody were to initiate a copyright strike, Redbubble would just take the one design down. Whatever was uploaded the last, they would just take it down. So I would caution you to just use designs as is ever, because, regardless, whether it's Creative Fabrica or anywhere else, because you really want to have your unique stamp on these designs so that if somebody does come out of the fog and they say to you, hey, you've stolen my design, or hey, this is the exact same design, you can say, no, I've modified it. And even though you have the license to use it, I would recommend from an artistic perspective to make sure to switch it up. I love using Creative Fabrica. The monthly subscriptions are really cool. They're really cheap. It's about $5 US per month. There is a freebies section as well on Creative Fabrica. So if you don't want to spend any money, but you'd still like to try Creative Fabrica, go on to Creative Fabrica, go up to the top right, and there's a free section. And in there's bundles. There's also fonts, graphics. I really like the fonts on Creative Fabrica too. To download a font's really easy, by the way. You just click on the download, you download it to your computer, open up the zip file, and then just double click on the file, and it'll automatically install right onto your computer, and then you've got that font to use now. So really cool to use fonts. Don't forget about the fonts. The other thing I really like on Creative Fabrica is there's a thing called Creative Fabrica Spark, and that's the artificial intelligence inside of Creative Fabrica. So you can type into a prompt window something like cat wearing a top hat, for example, and it will come back with a design. There's not as many features on Creative Fabrica Spark as there is in something like a Leonardo AI or a Night Cafe or a Dream by Wombo, but it's still pretty decent. And one thing you can do with Creative Fabrica is make PNG files right in Creative Fabrica. And that's a big deal because you can make a PNG file with a clear background. And that clear background is really helpful if you're putting it on a t-shirt, for example. You don't necessarily want to have a background if you're putting something funny with some text on it on a t-shirt. The other thing I really like about Creative Fabrica is they have this thing called Studio. So it's Creative Fabrica Studio. And it's like an all-in-one graphic design tool. It's kind of like Photoshop meets their website. So you can import elements off of Creative Fabrica right into the studio, into your template, and you can make great looking designs using only their software. You don't need Photoshop, you don't need Inkscape. You can monkey around with designs right inside of Creative Fabrica. I really enjoy using it. Highly recommend. Print on demand tool number 5 is Everbee. You may never have heard of Everbee before. Everbee is a niche research tool. And I really think that this is important, and I really think that this is overlooked a lot of times. I think when people are first starting out in print on demand, they get really excited about creating designs, and they think that people are just scouring the internet ready to purchase your t-shirt design. The truth of the matter is they probably are not. And you want to think about this as a consumer, right? Like if you get up in the morning, like right now, today, think about what are you planning on buying today? Maybe some groceries. Are you really thinking about buying a t-shirt? There's people that sell pizzas in a pizza restaurant. Well, how often do you eat pizza? Might be 3 times a year, 4 times a year, maybe it's once a month. It's certainly not every day, all day. And so I've gotten questions from people who are new artists on a site like Redbubble, for example, and they'll say, I don't understand. I've uploaded 4 designs onto Redbubble. It's been 2 hours. How come nobody's bought my t-shirt? And it's like, well, nobody's just sitting there waiting for you to upload your design. They might not see your designs for weeks, for months, maybe even years. I made a sale the other day on Redbubble from a design that I uploaded 5 years ago. And so you never know when somebody's going to be looking for something specific. So how do you overcome this hurdle? Because there's really 2 ways you can do print on demand. Way number 1 is you just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and you see what sells. So you just sit down and you go, I really like cats. I really like green beans. I really like bicycles. Okay, I'm going to make a bunch of designs about these things, and I'll just upload them and see if somebody wants to purchase them. That's one way to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. A bit more of an efficient way to do it is what we call niche research. And so I like using Everbee because it allows you to look into what people are searching for. You can type in a keyword and it gives you back a score. So what you're really looking for are design words, keywords, that are high demand and low supply. So in other words, lots of people are looking for the designs, but there's not a lot of designs to satisfy the demand. And if you can find a niche or 2 or 5 or 10 just like that, you can actually make some sales. So I like using Everbee because you can do really 2 things with it. One is you can type in specific keywords and you can see what the score is. And 2, it gives you related keywords. So if you type in something like anniversary, it'll give you back not only the anniversary, but related keywords. Could be romance, love, husband, wife, spouse, partner, that sort of thing. And I think it's really helpful because it can give you great ideas for brainstorming. And sometimes I've wound up with some sales that I never would have thought of before, and that's directly thanks to Everbee. Everbee is primarily designed for use on a site like Etsy. However, I've used Everbee specifically for sites like Redbubble. I've also used it for selling on Creative Fabrica. I've used it for selling on Displate. I've used it quite a bit for other print-on-demand ventures as well. Print-on-demand tool number 6 is BOOKBOLT. And if you've never heard of BOOKBOLT, then today's your lucky day. BOOKBOLT's one of my favorite tools to use. So I'm a big believer in Amazon. I think Amazon is the future. I think it's only going to get more and more popular. And you might as well jump on board and try to make some sales. And now, of course, do I love the fact that mom and pop shops are going out of business? Of course not. I'm not a heartless monster. All I'm saying is, as an artist, it's really cool that I can upload designs onto sites like Merch by Amazon and Amazon KDP, and there's lots and lots of people looking for content to purchase. They could be books, they could be t-shirts. So BOOKBOLT is primarily designed for Amazon. And so BOOKBOLT's got 2 main features inside of it that I really enjoy. BOOKBOLT feature number 1 is there's a niche research tool. And I won't repeat everything I just said in the last section, but I will say it's really cool for books because you can really drill down and you can find out exactly what people are searching for, and it actually shows you sales figures, which is really nice too. Now there's 3 types of books that Amazon sells. There's high content books, medium content books, and low content books. A high content book would be like a novel. Somebody's written a novel or a technical manual, a how-to manual. A medium content book would be something that involves some effort from the author. So for example, a book with word puzzles, but they're not just automatically generated by a machine. There's some extra effort put into it, and maybe there's some background, some knowledge put in there. Another example of a medium content book would be a coffee table book with pictures of Rome, but I've traveled to Rome a couple times, but my medium content book would have medieval art and the history of medieval art. So I'm doing research on it. I'm typing an actual text into the book. It's not only pictures. There's other things as well. A low content book would be just the photographs. It'd be like a coffee table book. Or it could be a blank journal. That's a very popular type of book. It might be a book of just graph paper, for example, or just a daily dieting journal, things like that. Those are low content books. And so BOOKBOLT's really helpful for this sort of activity. The second feature I really like about BOOKBOLT is that you can actually make the book right inside of BOOKBOLT. BOOKBOLT has creative software, and it's basically a template. You can specify the number of pages, the size of the book, and then it gives you a cover template and an interior template, and you can put in auto-generated pages, things like puzzles, different types of lines, graph paper, that kind of thing. So it's really cool to use, and you can make medium content books, low content books really easily inside of BOOKBOLT. Highly recommend. Print-on-demand tool number 7 is KITTL. I absolutely love using KITTL. I've been using KITTL for over 2 years now. I use it almost every day or every day. and I absolutely love it. It's super easy to use. There's a ton of cool features inside of it. And the really big thing with KITTL, I was talking about the start of the podcast about time, energy, and money, and you're really trading off one for the other. KITTL to me is a massive, massive time saver. I can upload 10 designs to Displayed. I can upload designs to Merch by Amazon. I can crank out designs while I'm watching TV, and it's so easy to use that it's actually quite fun. I'm not struggling with the technical pieces of KITTL. It's very intuitive to use. I will say there's a lot of different features and a lot of different elements that are sort of hidden inside of it. So I would recommend check out Zen Watercooler channel for some KITTL videos. I've got lots of tips and tricks on how you can make some cool things inside of KITTL. One of the things I really like about KITTL is the templates. And so you can pick a template and just start using it and modify it. And it's a huge time saver because you've got this professional looking template that's completely customizable, completely editable. Another thing I really like with KITTL are the text tools. I've made text only designs, which do sell on sites like Redbubble and TeePublic, and you can make really good looking text designs. Things like drop shadows and glowing effects. It's really nice and easy to use KITTL. I use it almost every day. Print on demand tool number 8 is Gelato. And Gelato is not a website per se. It's not like a marketplace, although it is a website. Gelato is a print-on-demand supplier. So what that means is you could go onto the Gelato website and you could purchase a t-shirt or a tank top or a fine art print. And then you'd upload your image into that and then you'd order it and it would come to your house. Now you're not necessarily selling it on Gelato. There is no marketplace per se. But what you can do with Gelato is you can sync up your Shopify store or your Etsy shop, and you can make your storefront really glisten because you'd have multiple suppliers. You could use Gelato, you could use other print-on-demand suppliers as well. What I like about Gelato is that the quality of the garments is very high. I've got t-shirts that I've printed from Gelato over a year ago. I've washed them repeatedly, and I'm playing sports, I'm walking around in the summertime, I'm at the beach, and these are high quality garments. Both the garment itself, so like the t-shirt itself is high quality, but also the printing is high quality as well. It's not pilling and fraying like it is with some other print-on-demand suppliers. I will say as well, Gelato ships locally, and this is a really big deal because it saves me customs and duties fees. Because I live in Canada, if I order something, chances are it's going to come from the United States, and that can be a real problem. So when I order from Gelato, it actually ships locally the vast majority of time, and it saves me time. It doesn't have to clear customs, and it also saves me duty as well. I do recommend you try out Gelato. It is free to try. Again, I'll put a link down in the description below. You just have to purchase the product. So you're basically buying a t-shirt at cost, and there's a little bit of effort that you have to put in to actually design the product, and then you put it on a t-shirt or a fine art print and you can get it shipped to your house. Print on demand tool number 9 is Merch Informer. I was saying before about how much I love Amazon. If you look at the traffic that Amazon gets, it just dwarfs pretty much all other online retailers. And that's a really big deal if you're an artist. It's free to upload onto Merch by Amazon, and you start off in tier 10, which is very frustrating as a new artist. What that means is you've got 10 slots, you can put 10 designs up, and then you can stick them all on a bunch of different products, about 70, 71 products. But that doesn't give you a lot of visibility for clients. You've just got 10 designs now sitting up in the world. So what you need to do is put your best 10 designs up, make some sales, and once you make a few sales, they'll bump you up to tier 25, and then tier 50, tier 100, tier 500. I'm currently sitting at tier 500, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to fill all the slots simply because I don't have enough time during the day. I've got a job, I need to mow the lawn, and so on. However, Merch Informer has been a huge help to me over the last 2 years to get from tier 10 up to tier 500. If you're not selling in niches where people are actually looking, you're never going to make a sale. And if you pick only highly competitive niches, again, you're probably not going to make a sale. So it can be very difficult sometimes to find niches that you actually want to create stuff in, but you need eyeballs on it and you need not a lot of competition. And that's really difficult sometimes. So Merch Informer is a great niche research tool for that very reason. It helped me a great deal to get out of tier 10. And that's a big deal when you're first starting out. Highly, highly recommend. Print on demand tool number 10 is Vexels. Vexels is a huge website with a ton of different designs on it, primarily designed for t-shirts. They have a massive design library, and I really like the quality of the designs that they create. There's also a t-shirt generator tool. There's a mock-up generator tool. I find the quality of the designs are among the best in the industry with Vexels, and I've used them quite a bit. Now again, the same caveat that I threw out before in the video, I'll throw it right here. If you download something on Vexels, it does come with a commercial license and you can use it as is. However, I would recommend that you change the design in some way so that if you're uploading it, you've made it your own. Change the text, change the colors, crop it a tiny bit, move things around, and that way you've got your own design to sell and you won't be competing with someone else. Okay, so as we wind down this podcast, what are the big takeaways here? There's lots of free tools that you can use in the print-on-demand world. I would recommend whatever you choose to use, have a web browser like Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, whatever it is, and bookmark these websites. So a little bit of a time saver here. Make sure you've got a folder inside your internet browser that has all of these tools bookmarked so you can quickly access them. Time becomes a very valuable resource when you're committed in the print-on-demand world. You might only have a half hour a night, 4 nights this week to work on something. That's not a lot of time. And other people are also working on designs and they're uploading too. So it is a competitive venture. This is not passive income. One of the things that I get frustrated comments on the YouTube channel is people say print on demand is a scam, it's a sham, it's not passive at all. I've never claimed that it's passive. It takes a lot of work. The passive part of print on demand is that another company is printing and shipping your product and they're using your design and they're paying you a royalty. That's the passive part. But the actual designing, the actual artwork, the actual creativity, that's not passive at all. I would recommend that you get comfortable, you learn as much as you can about these programs, and that you have some fun checking them out. So I've got 2 huge takeaways here at the end, regardless of what tools you decide to use. The first takeaway is, if you purchase a subscription to one of these sites, or if you pay for one of the programs, even if it's a free tool, you need to use the tool. If you don't use the tool and months go by, not only are you not getting your value, your money's worth, but 2, you're not going to be very good at it. So you need to put in the time to learn how to use the tool. And number 2, you need to be patient with yourself and actually learn how to do things inside of the tool. What happens a lot of the times is that people will purchase the tool and then they'll use it for a couple reasons and then they won't push themselves. They won't fail. They won't move forward to the point where they go, oh, that design looks pretty crappy, but I tried it. I would recommend you do that. I would recommend you get in there and challenge yourself to try new types of designs. Check out new features inside that tool. That's how you get better. No one's going to know. If you crank out a crappy design, who cares? Okay, did you waste a half an hour? Probably not. A, you had fun, and B, you did eventually learn how to use that tool better. Well, that can really be helpful if you get a custom request on an Etsy shop, or one of your friends asks you to do something specific, or maybe you're walking by a billboard one day and you go, oh, maybe I should make those types of designs. Well, now you know how because you spent a half hour investing. So I would recommend you take about 10% of your time when you're first starting out to learn how to use the tools and on purpose create designs that you're most likely sure they're not going to be uploaded and you're not going to make sales with them. But that's okay because you're learning. Invest about 10% of that time at the start and you can really augment your path because you're not only creating designs and having fun, but you're getting better And that's a key part as well. I really hope you found this podcast helpful. I love these audio-only podcasts, and I love hearing from you. If you've got a question or a comment, throw it on down in the description below. And here is another audio-only podcast. Hope you have a great day. I believe in you. Go forth and create. Thanks a lot for listening.